right. Well, welcome back. Another exciting episode of Line Hands on the River, and we have Mr. Raymond Tunez with us here today, otherwise known as Two Nuts.
That's it.
Okay, Ray, can you go back and take us back to when you first started with the company?
Oh man, it was shortly after they invented electricity. Me and Ben Franklin. No, just kidding. 1985, hired on, and we had a helper class. You know, after going through, interviews and tests and everything, they give you a start date. So we started. We had helper class. So there was a group of us that got hired on together. Sebastian Fonte being one of them.
Oh, wow.
Reyes being another one. Another guy named Mark Hatton who passed away. He died from a primary contact at Northeast Yard.
Wow.
Yeah. Who else was in my helper class? Oh, doggone it. Mike Rosin.
Mike Rosin.
Mike
wow,
Rosin.
There's a name.
Yeah. So anyway, we had like a 2-week class where like 3 managers and 3 guys from the union, and they basically gave us an introduction to, safety rules, what it's like working for the company, and we'd have and then they bring guys from the service center. They brought line trucks, and they had us driving line trucks around. It was over there by the pot shop, at the ERC, and they had a training field there that West Dade had set up, and we used it. The beach yard used it also for apprentice training, and we drove trucks around there. We went up in bucket trucks. They actually gave us some tools and let us try climbing, and it was right then and there that a bunch of guys decided, no, I'm not going to go on the overhead, that's for sure.
Yeah, they were done, huh?
There was a big group of those guys that went into substations.
Well, this line of work isn't for everybody, right?
And then after we finished the helper class, after they gave us our power caps and safety glasses, hard hat.
Power caps.
Yeah.
For the people at home that don't know what they are, what exactly
The
are
company used to give you these vitamins, and they were mailed to your house every month, a 30-day supply, and you took them, and they made you eat like 2 horses, because I eat like a horse normally, but that made me eat like 2 horses, and it made you pee fluorescent green.
Wow.
But they were good vitamins, I guess.
So
anyway,
what was the starting pay like?
Oh,
back in 1985.
$7.08 an hour.
$7
as a helper.
an hour as a helper. Wow.
Right.
Boy, have times changed, huh?
And we didn't have a CDL either. But you had to have a chauffeur's license, which is like when you went to take your driver's license. If you wanted to get a chauffeur's, you pay a little bit more, and they had some more questions on there. And you got everybody who was a professional driver had to have a chauffeur's license.
So how long you think you stayed at the ERC, the repair shop, when you
got
hired?
So we didn't cover that, but I had to. They assign you a place where you were going to be. It's just like the military when you sign up on an open contract and they go, okay, you're going to be infantry, you're going to be, radio man, everybody got sent somewhere, and I got sent to the pot shop or ERC, which was good financially because I was getting relieving repairman B. They didn't have helpers there.
And what was that like?
It was $11 an hour, and basically we worked on an assembly line. They had guys there who were equipment operators. They were just forklift drivers, and they bring in, and they had different stations that you'd be assigned to. And I worked on the line for like a month, and just they're bringing in transformers. They put them on top of these trays, and you slide them down this conveyor belt. It was a conveyor belt that you pushed, the transformers, and you had this machine, a pump, and you pumped all the oil out of them. You changed the bushings, you changed the ring on it, the gasket, send it on down the line.
Kind of like working in a factory.
It was working in a factory. It was like working in General Motors, putting in a right front tire for 20 years. I go, no way in hell I'm going to freaking do this for.
No, so how long did that last before you moved on to the next adventure, which was what?
I think I was there for about 2 months, maybe 3, but it seemed like I was there for a year because I didn't have any seniority, and I would go to the bid board and I would bid every apprenticeship job, anything to get me out of there, anything to get me out in the field. So I finally landed a job as repairman B underground.
So is that that was your first job out of the ERC
That was my first job out of ERC.
in the
And,
underground?
and
In what yard?
in Miami Beach yard.
Oh wow, that must
Yeah.
have been nice.
That doesn't exist anymore. We were a small yard, and we had 3 line crews, a service crew, and I don't know how many splicing crews. A lot of splicing crews, like maybe 6. And the underground construction crew was we would install manholes, we would dig ditches, we would dig by hand because they didn't at that time. You weren't allowed to use any digging equipment on Miami Beach because they had too many gas lines, too many phone lines, and nobody knew
Nobody knew where it was at.
where everything was at, so you had to dig by hand. And it was soft digging anyway. It was all sand and muck. And after you got about 3 feet, it would start collapsing on you, and you have to be, digging it out. And
So how long did that last?
I think I did that for about 3 months. So by that time, I had I don't know, maybe 6 months with the company, maybe a little more. I don't know. It's kind of blur. It's a blur to me. Time
So
going
now
back
you're
in time.
into 6 months with the company, and you're finally making an overhead apprentice job.
Yeah, there was an apprentice that bid out. Matt Schmidt bid out. Went to West Dade, I think, and I bid the apprentice job
At Miami Beach Yard.
in Miami Beach Yard, apprentice lineman job.
Wow.
And then
So
first day on the job, I was an apprentice. I was on the service crew, and that was climbing school, and learning how to hang a service school, and working with things hot school, and your lesson was all in one day.
Oh wow.
Like okay,
Crash
I don't remember
course.
how I got. I think I had my tools. I had already bought my tools, but somebody gave me a pair of tools and climbing tools, and they gave me all the hand tools I needed.
I'm just
And-
curious, as far back as that was, what was emphasized as far as safety back then? I mean, we're talking 30 plus years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, what was emphasized as safety back then? What was at the top
At the top,
of the safety?
well, I mean, we work it hot or ground it out. It's just like today. That was the rule.
Work
But,
it hot or ground it out.
Yeah, and use cover, use your rubber gloves, wear your safety glasses. Like my first day on the service truck, they gave me a set of tools and said, "All right, climb up there, and belt off right below the secondary bus." I said, "Below the what?" I didn't even know what a freaking secondary bus was.
Wow.
And he goes, "Hang the hand line." No, don't hang it around the fork. They talked me through it. And you free climb all the way up. Once you got past the bell, then you could belt off and climb up to the bottom hot leg. Hang your hand line, send you up an eel. Slide your eels on.
This is all learn as you go, right?
Yeah, this is.
Very interesting.
I'm sliding eels on. Then we used to sag the services at the pole. So here I am, Tony Bethel was a serviceman B. He'd make up the hand line. He'd make up the weatherhead, and then he'd send me up the service, and I'd have to hang it, cut the neutral, sag it, with the hand line, come up, okay, hold that, and dead end your service, make up the service, and then leave everything covered up till he was done. Then he'd tell you to make it hot, then you make it hot, then you send down your eels, and this was like every day, every service pole we went to, not just service poles, line poles,
Right.
and whether it was accessible or not, didn't matter. The bucket truck was just something I drove from
Now-
one job
now,
to another.
Was there anything that was like a formal apprenticeship, like
Oh.
lessons laid out in a certain fashion?
Yeah. We had apprentice. We had to go to apprentice class,
And what was that like?
like twice a week after work in the yard
On your time?
on our time. In the beginning it'd be like doing services, whatever, was whatever level you were on, and then on Saturday, every Saturday morning, we had to go out to West Dade with our tools. Well, you put your tools in the line truck. Jack Minter would drive he was the apprentice instructor. Jack Minter.
Jack Minter.
Mother Minter, we called him. Jack was a
Look us
good
up.
apprentice instructor, but he had no patience whatsoever.
But he was the apprentice instructor with no patience.
He was an apprentice instructor with no patience.
I probably made
And
for
you
an
go out there
interesting day.
every morning, every Saturday morning, and you do demos. A lot of times, there was like two other apprentices in the yard. One was Paul Schaefer, and Valen. Can't remember his name now.
It's all right.
Big guy.
It's all right, Ray.
It'll come to me.
It's almost 40 years ago.
Yeah, I just. Wait a minute. I'm
It's all
sorry.
right.
It's the.
We're just thankful
brain-
you remembered to come to the.
I have I had a little traumatic brain injury. We'll talk about that later. Makes me forget things.
I'm sure we're going to go through the whole.
Chuck Van
The
Us.
whole
It just
timeline.
came to me. Chuck Van Us.
Oh, Chuck Van Us.
So these guys were ahead of me. They were doing like, sagging primary with a hoist. But this is all stick work. It was
Oh,
all
big boy
stick work,
stuff.
huh?
Big boy work.
Yeah. So I was helping these guys do this because they needed to have two guys on the pole doing it, and it was way beyond my level of where I was at. But it was to my advantage because I had already done this like 16 times when I came to it. But I remember being up on the pole for like 4 hours, coming home on a Saturday, like about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and just being wiped out. And anyway,
Beat.
so we also worked a lot of overtime back then.
Oh yeah.
Every day they'd hold the yard,
Let's
Well,
talk
they
about
wouldn't hold the
that.
yard. They would ask for a crew. Trouble would ask for a crew, and the crew consisted of a foreman, a lineman, and an apprentice. Or sometimes they hold two crews, but almost every day I worked overtime. So we'd be learning different things, working at night. We'd be learning constantly on the job training.
So during your apprentice, what was the one thing that stuck out throughout your apprenticeship?
The one thing that stuck out?
Yeah.
Pain.
Any certain job or anything that you did in particular?
I used to I remember one time there was a storm. It rained for like 3 days straight. It was like a tropical storm, and we worked like 36 hours straight. I had never done that, and I was really tired, And I went up, and I climbed the pole, and I went to hang my hand line without my rubber gloves on. Everything was dead, but I didn't know that it was dead, and I got yelled at. It goes, "Hey, you're treating it like it's dead, and you're assuming it's dead, and you haven't tested anything. We haven't ground anything out. Never do that again." And yelling at me. I remember cutting out a couple times because we used to free climb back then. We used to free climb, run up the pole. I got to the point where I could run up a pole like nothing, and not even look at my feet.
Right.
And I remember one time I cut out those nasty poles on Miami Beach. All those poles you see in the alleyway, those big freaking 50-foot poles.
Right.
They were all like gnarly, full of creosote poles.
Staples all
We used to
over.
climb all those, And then cut out, grabbed the pole. I hugged that pole and I rode it all the way down until I was like 2 inches from the ground. And when I got off the pole, my shirt was gone.
So what was the attire like back then?
Oh yeah, we didn't.
Long sleeve.
You had to wear a long sleeve shirt.
That was the
it.
only requirement.
And we didn't wear work gloves. Work gloves were optional.
Oh, nice. Work gloves were
We didn't like to
optional.
wear work gloves because we like to feel the pole with your hands while you're climbing because we were free climbing. So you want to feel and grip the pole. It was kind of like discouraged to wear gloves while climbing because you want
Right.
because those hands your hands was your fall arrest system.
Right.
It wasn't your feet was what kept you your proper angle of your hooks is what kept you on the pole, but your hands was like your belt, your safety, you know. And then everybody carried like a little safety pin on their shirt or on their little blue bag. Everybody had a blue bag we used to carry, and you had a little safety pin. And at the end of the day, you pick out all the splinters from the
Oh,
day
that many,
before,
huh?
because like overnight they get pussy, and then you'd be able to.
Right. That's interesting. No work gloves were optional, huh?
Yeah. Oh, I remember. This is why my hands look the way they do. I don't know if you can see.
I'm sure there's lots of reasons why they look that way.
They're kind of gnarly, but
we'll try to cover a few of them.
we used to. We didn't have ratchet cutters. We didn't have hydraulic cutters. We didn't have battery operated tools. We didn't have sweethearts.
Everything's
we didn't have
OL manual, huh?
Dude, there was like just a weather. As you say, five weatherheads, 4 weatherheads, parallel, 500 copper.
Ooh.
You have to shape it. You have to cut it with cable cutters, because put it like this and grab it like this. No, I don't have any shoulder problems. No. I don't have any tendonitis. No. Anyway, and then you have to put a sleeve on, skin it, put a sleeve on, and then get the WH1 tool and pump that thing. 14 pumps.
Wow.
To make one crimp, another 14 pumps, and now you have one paddle spade connector on there. All right? Now you have to do this to all the wires. So if you got a 3-phase multiple weatherhead, 3 times 4 is 12. You have to do that to 12 wires. Then you have to bolt them to a piece of bus bar. We didn't have sweethearts. Bolt them to a piece of bus bar. None of this,
that was the connection,
with a wrench and a speed wrench, and make sure they're nice and tight. Then we would put rags on them, so the rubber tape wouldn't melt onto the, in case they ever had to replace one of those connectors or unbolt them. Then we put rags on them, because they used to give us rags. And we put rubber tape on them, 2 layers of rubber tape, then 2 layers of vinyl. And that was, you could be up on a ladder for one time I was on a ladder for 3 hours doing a weatherhead. Because it was like a big weatherhead. I had 5 weatherheads. It was someplace, Bertram Yacht somewhere. It's crazy.
Wow.
And no, everything was harder. And things have gotten a lot easier and better, more ergonomic.
The industry's come a long ways.
The industry's come a long way as far as reducing wear and tear, and
So-
even pole climbing, using the buck squeeze.
So what back in those days? What were the types of the injuries that you would see that were common in the service centers, particularly the beach service center where you were at?
We had a major injury to the underground guy, where I had just gotten off that crew and started my apprenticeship, and Norman, I don't know if I'm allowed to use names, but
That's fine.
Norm and Manny, and a guy named, his last name was Bougier. It was a French name, and I forgot who the other guy was. But we used to go down in the manhole and clean the manholes. We'd go down the manhole with a bucket and a shovel, fill up the bucket with mud and stuff. The guy on top would pull it out, and that's how we would clean manholes, because the cable splashers were getting ready to go in there. The prima donnas couldn't get that dirty going in there. So
Right.
we had to clean up for him.
So we've been catering to the underground since
Yeah,
day one, huh?
We'd be pulling cable, cleaning the manholes, and they'd be in the truck prepping, washing their hands and reading the newspaper. Then they come down ready to splice. They're like surgeons, like this,
Getting ready for the operation.
Getting ready for the operation. But anyway, no, I'm just kidding. But Well, not so much. So, so these guys, one guy, they didn't test the manhole. Now we were required to test the manhole. We were required to have a tripod standing by. We were required to do all these things, but it was one of these things back then that nobody did it. We knew we had to do it, but a lot of guys got away with not doing it, and they didn't do it. And that day, one guy went down and succumbed to mangrove gas and was face down in the freaking water and in the manhole. Second guy went down to rescue him. He was face down in the water.
Wow.
Third guy went down to rescue him. He was face down in the water. The fire department got there. They didn't have a way to get him out. They tried to tie a rope around him and tie it and pull him out. It was really hard to pull a 200 plus pound guy out of a freaking manhole. They finally got those guys out. Luckily, none of them got killed by some miracle. Because a couple years ago, we had a contractor for a guy named Ozzy. A lot of guys here knew him. He was a contractor for, I think, Mastech died.
Yeah.
Doing the same thing. And so anyway, that was the only major injury we had. And then I had one of my fellow helpers, who was an apprentice at Northeast. We had they called us to the yard when they had like a meeting, and he was doing a primary transfer. Didn't have enough cover. He had a flash, and what happened was the flash was really intense, and he inhaled all of the heat from that flash.
Oh, wow.
So it burned him on the inside.
Scorched his lungs.
And it scorched his lungs, and he died the next day. His name was Mark Hatton.
Wow, so sad.
Huh?
That's sad.
Yeah, it was really sad. So, but as far as like at the beach yard, we really, we had I did get one injury while I was there. I was going to a pole, and there was a plant next to the pole called a Spanish bayonet, and it poked me in the leg. And the little
infected?
It's a plant that has like these spears on the end. It's called the Spanish bayonet, and it poked me in the leg. I didn't think anything of it. I said, "Oh damn!" Went up there, did my job. The next day, my leg was like swelled up, and I had to go to the hospital, and they had to cut it out. So, and then I had a couple of stitches here and there.
Stitches from what?
I don't remember. I think sharpening a knife, I cut my finger. And I had to get some stitches.
So did you finish your apprenticeship at the beach yard, or?
I was almost finished, and I've been to Central Yard. And I finished my apprenticeship here at Central Yard. Because at the beach yard, it was a small yard. Central Yard did a lot more. I had already become a glover and had gone to gloving school. And at Central Yard, they were doing a lot of big jobs and big work. So I came over here and I did a lot of work.
What year was that? Do you remember?
Man, I don't remember. 90-something? Yeah. Like, I was an apprentice for like 4 years, so 86. It was like 1990.
Salud, Ray.
Salute.
Salud.
Hey, man. This is the thing in Central,
Yeah. Cuban
It's
coffee.
a long way from West Virginia, buddy.
We gotta get that energy going.
You hear the music in the background, too?
Oh, that's delicious. What do they call that again?
It's called Cuban coffee.
That's delicious.
Yeah.
We don't have anything like that in West Virginia.
Oh.
Okay, so 4-year apprenticeship. What? Do you remember when you made lineman?
Yeah.
I know it was a long time ago.
That was a long time ago.
I mean, Jesus.
We had a nice dinner. They gave us a certificate. And then my first job, my first lineman job was working with Al Nelson. He's no longer with us.
So do you remember your first job as a journeyman lineman?
Oh, man. I don't remember. I do remember one job where I spent like about 8 hours up on the pole. Myself and Richard Daniel. And Richard Daniel, the one who he was a dispatcher, now he's a patrolman at Northeast.
They call him Little Ears.
Little ears because he had tiny ears.
Yeah.
But
I just saw him the other day.
him and I were up on the pole, and we were doing a 3-pop bank, building a 3-pop bank, inaccessible, transferring 336 primary with sticks, and running a couple of 568 services. And the guys on the ground did not have their act together. Like, I don't even want to say who they were. We would have, like, you know how you're working on the ground, you got a big job, you got to stay ahead of the guys on the pole, have everything ready for them, so when they call for it, it's ready to go. Well, these guys were like, just sit there talking, wait for us to call for something, go out, mess around the truck for half an hour, rustle it up, bring it back to us. You know, it was like this. It was frustrating.
Oh, that must have been painful.
It was very painful. And then there was a customer who came out and kept cussing me out because we had extended the time we were told him we were going to be out. And the guy was like screaming at me and yelling at me and cussing me out. It was very, very aggravating. So.
And that was the customer, not the foreman?
It was a customer, not the foreman.
Okay.
That was a job that I'll never forget.
Sounds painful.
Yeah, another job that I'll never forget. I was a lineman, and we had a rear of feeder in the rear of. It was not out of our area, out in West Dade, and it was a lot of trees growing over the feeder. So the pole and everything was full of the slimy algae, you know, and it was raining, and I had to dead end some 568 up there. So I'm climbing up there, and I said, "Oh heck, I'm gonna belt off." But we didn't have the buck squeeze, so my belt is sliding, my hand's sliding. I finally got up there. I get in position. I have my hoist and everything set up, you know, and they're sending me up the wire, and the guy put the hand line, the grapevine, he did it backwards, so it wouldn't come off, you know, like you know how you flip it. You know, after I sagged the wire and got everything in, the hand line didn't want to come off. I had to get the stick and undo it, and I was really pissed off. But that was a kind of scary job because that pole was leaning, it was raining, it was slippery. I thought I was going to cut out and kill myself on that pole. But I made it.
Oh, you made it.
I made it.
Now let's talk about your family.
Oh.
You know, you've got this great job, this career, and it's very demanding.
Mm-hmm.
How many kids did you have, Ray?
I had 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl, 1 wife.
I mean, that's impressive in today's terms. You've got
Yeah. Hey, listen,
still
she's
married to the same lady.
She's a heck of a lady. We've been married 45 years.
What she put up with from you, I can only imagine.
She'd have put up with a lot of crap, both in the Marine Corps and in FPNL.
So how many kids you have? 3?
3.
So 1 girl and 2 boys.
Yeah.
And
2 boys.
What's their ages today?
Woo. Michael's 42.
Wow.
Christopher's 40, and Jennifer is 34.
Well, if that don't make you feel old, I don't know what will besides these chairs.
And I have 6 grandkids. I missed
6 grandkids. Wow.
I always worked overtime because my wife chose to stay at home, and in modern society,
Well, I'm sure that was a mutual agreement.
it was a mutual agreement
because
because she wanted to stay home and raise the kids, and I worked a lot of overtime, and even still, we were always paycheck to paycheck. That started changing, you know, in later years as we made more money, as we had more savings, you know, and our properties were paid off. So things have changed, but
everyone's not familiar with what that lifestyle is like, being the sole provider in a household and working all those hours. Like, you know, I'm sure you missed birthdays, and I'm sure you missed some holidays.
I miss band concerts. I miss football games. I miss award ceremonies. I miss birthdays. I miss everything. Yeah. And my wife understood.
Let's go to the first, I guess the first time you had an injury that put the brakes on.
Oh.
You know, like, hey, this is serious. This is.
Well, my first serious injury was we were You want to talk about the injury, how it happened, and all that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I was well, one time I broke my leg, or walking towards a pole in the river, and they had some coral rocks that they had dug up around the base of the pole.
Uh-huh.
And I had my tools in my hand. I'm walking towards the pole, and the rocks gave way, and my ankle just went and broke. That was like, it wasn't a major injury. I just had a broken ankle. And then,
Well, for a tough guy like yourself, that's not a major injury.
I hurt like hell, though. I'll tell you that. But if you ever had a broken bone, it hurts.
Absolutely.
So then another one that was a close call was...
Well, let's go back to the broken ankle.
Oh, okay.
So you break your ankle, so now how long are you out of work? And how is that affecting your family? Because
I was out of work for about 6 weeks. I wasn't making any overtime. Back then, they had light duty, so they had me on crutches doing some light duty work at the office.
Well, so you was out for 6 weeks. You go back on to your normal duties as a lineman.
Yeah.
And what happened from there? Did we have another injury?
I had another injury where we were working. It was a Saturday. Because I always worked 311 or off shifts because there was more overtime, more money back then. Now they hold a whole yard, and actually the off shifts make less overtime now. But back then it was like I was chasing the overtime, so I always worked off shifts and weekend shifts because you got forced. You didn't have to force me; I was willing, but got forced every Saturday night. And they sent us to go help a crew in West Dade. There was a feeder pole, and it was out there down Okeechobee Road, down this dirt road where they had a quarry. And we finished setting the pole, everything. They had grounds, and they had everything, release the clearance.
I remember this.
I had a bunch of stuff up in the bucket. I had a bunch of hoists and slings and chainsaws and crimpers and all kinds of stuff. For those of you who don't know, crimpers are these things that you go like this, and it crimps wire. Because now they just go like this.
Oh, El Manuel.
So anyway, I said, "Hey, you mind?" Foreman goes, "Yeah, you mind going down and closing a set of switches?" And I go, "Okay." Where is it? It goes, "It's just down like the next pole down or so." And it turned out, I said, "Okay, I'll just ride up here in the bucket because I have all this stuff up here, and I want to have to take all this down. We wanted to get this feeder back on, I had to go there and close a set of disconnect switches. So I'm riding in the bucket, but it turned out to be further than it was. And by the rock quarry, that's a hard word to say, rock quarry.
Rock quarry?
See? Anyway.
That's a tongue twister.
Rock
there.
quarry.
Even for us West Virginians.
Well, where the dump trucks leave full of rocks, they kick up a lot of dust. So there's a residential area back there. And they had a speed bump to slow them down, and after they go over the speed bump, there's water that hits them, and it rinses them off to keep the dust down. So we're going the opposite way. We hit the water first. I'm going, is this raining? I don't see any clouds. And then we hit the speed bump, and I was in a High Ranger type bucket, double bucket. It wasn't latched.
And it didn't have the rest under the basket.
No, that came up after. So the bucket went like this. Whoa. I don't know if you caught that. And it went like that and just catapulted me out of the bucket.
And as you were being driven down the road.
Yeah, as he was driving down the road and hit the speed bump. And I remember being thrown out of the bucket and saying, this is not going to be good. I actually thought that. This is not going to be good.
Coming from you, that had to have been a very weird feeling.
So I woke up in the belly of the truck, And the guy Lazaro, who was driving the truck, is down there in the steps where the belly of the truck is, and he's sitting there going, "Oh my God, oh my God," because I was covered with blood, because I had smashed my head in, and I was calming him down. I was going, "Calm down, buddy, calm down." But I felt okay. But the next, but then I found out that I had smashed my skull here, and they had to take some, excuse the glare, I had to take some bone from here.
Boy, that's a head and a half there, isn't it, guys?
And then put it here in my forehead and put some screws in.
Well, it's funny that this is something that you're talking about because, I was actually there as well.
Right.
When this accident occurred. And yeah, you did have you had a hole the size, you could put your fingers in the hole in his head. He actually looked like a bludgeon, blue.
And did the neurosurgeon,
whale.
The neurosurgeon told me that something metal and cylindrical hit my head. I think it was like we had a bunch of switches, like dropout switches on the belly of the truck on a rack there. Maybe I hit one of those. I don't know what it was that I hit with my head. But he said it came like quarter of an inch from going into my brain and causing really, really bad damage.
So I remember when Lazaro came back around.
Yeah.
Because we were set up at the pole to make it hot. And I saw the truck coming, and I could hear Laz. He was, screaming out the door as he's pulling up. And all I got was, Ray's hurt. And I'm thinking to myself, how in the hell do you get hurt, going to a set of switches and taking a tag down?
Yeah.
So once I realized just how serious it was, we get out of the bucket and come down, and I walk around to the passenger side of the bucket. And I remember before I opened up the door of the bucket, I could see the blood running out on the steps of the truck from under the door.
Damn, there was that much blood?
And when we opened the door, there laid Ray in a fetal position, kind of in the floorboard, with all this blood.
Wow.
And Ray was like, can you call my wife? I'm like, yeah, Ray, we're going to call your wife. And you actually had a hole in your head that you could literally put your fingers in.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God. So we called, 911. We did all the procedures. And I remember calling your wife to tell her that you were with the hospital you were going to. And the eeriness in her voice and how awful it felt to have to tell your wife that this accident had occurred.
Well, see, I don't remember, when you get hit in the head, your memory gets wiped out. I don't remember hitting the thing, and and a little shortly after the periods afterwards, it's a little sketchy to me, and your memory card there gets blanked out a little bit, but I recovered, I'm okay.
That you did.
I set off all the alarms at TSA now, but then and then my last accident. Did I have any other accidents after that? I had a couple other small accidents. One was a barrel hit me in the hard hat, and because of me, now you can't ride in a bucket.
Yeah, let's talk about that. That's
because
what I was going with.
Before you could ride in a bucket,
pole to pole,
but then they said no more riding the bucket. And then I had a barrel fall off an extendo stick and hit me in the. I had my hard hat on, but it still like smashed my hard hat against my head, and I had a little cut. I got some stitches, but because of me, at that time, the pigtail was optional because a lot of guys weren't used to the pigtail, and I didn't like the pigtail at first either. But now I don't know how we ever did that without the pigtail, But so because of me, and then there was another time I had my hand degloved, my finger got caught, my ring finger got caught, and
well, listen, we don't have to whisper. I mean, these things have already happened. So You know,
I
after
mean,
you got us the
in
pigtail
case.
awarded the training wheels for the extendo stick.
I shout out to to Kerwin, who when I hit my head there, got thrown out of the bucket. He was there. He put on all his freaking uh, hazmat suit, and he was patching me up and all this stuff while when the ambulance got there.
It was a traumatizing event that day.
Yeah.
Poor
And he was-
Lazaro.
Yeah, Lazaro was shook up.
He was that. He handled it good, though.
Yeah.
I think everybody handled it good. I think when it came to stuff like that, it wasn't as surprising as it is today.
Yeah. I mean, but the next day, I also, my shoulders, my back, my legs, everything was hurting me. But they say, yeah, you probably sprained this, sprained that, and it's probably going to come back to haunt you later. But right now, we're worried about the head injury.
I've said it all along. Had it been a normal individual, they definitely would have made it through that accident. They would have never came back to work.
Yeah, I know, but there's more.
Well, there's always more with
There's
you.
more.
Ray.
2 years ago, I fell off a roof, landed on my head, woke up in the trauma center, and the guy says, I go, what am I doing here? He goes, you fell off 15 feet and landed on your head, and you have bleeding of the brain and some fractured vertebrae. I go, oh, okay. Anybody call my wife? Yeah.
Your poor wife.
Because I'm Braulio.
I think this was when I first actually came back.
Shout out to Braulio.
Let's wait a minute now.
Huh? You getting ahead of myself?
You fell off the roof, right?
Yeah.
And Brawley was there to save you.
Yeah. Well, we hung a service. I'm making up the weatherhead. Finished. The weatherhead was like, I don't know, maybe like 8 feet away from the edge of the roof. So it was like in all those old houses where they have like a meter room. So the weatherhead goes into a meter room, and it's not outside the edge of the house. I had a ladder up against the edge of the roof. I took my grunt bag with all my tools. I finished making up the weatherhead, and Braulio's looking at me, and I'm walking towards the ladder, and I don't know what happened, because I remember just losing my balance and trying to grab something, but there's nothing there to grab, and saying to myself, "Oh no, I'm gonna fall off
Here
this
we
roof."
go again.
Here, actually thinking, "Oh no, I'm gonna fall," and I'm falling forwards. And Braulio, I don't know. I woke up in his arms, and I'm like, "Why are we laying here in this backyard? And why am I in your arms?
Well, why are you holding me?
What the hell's going on?" And he's like, "Oh man," but Braulio had already called 911, and then I went back out again, and then I woke up again in the hospital, and I could have been dead or paralyzed. Thank God. Shout out to Jesus looking out for me.
Well, Ray, I have to admit you're probably one of the toughest characters I've come across in this line of work.
I'll never forget the time I threw in a freaking switch on a underbuilt transformer in Bay Heights, and the service, we were going to change a pot in the roof. I go, let's try it again, because this might not be a bad pot, because it looked good, and the oil smelled good. And you have the switches down here. I'm sorry, the switches up here. The stinger goes down to a device arm, and then it goes to the transformer. So I'm not here by the transformer. The service is above the transformer, right?
All around the primary leads.
And here's the primary stinger going down, and they used to use covered wire, but the service was touching the primary stinger, and as the years went by, moving, it had rubbed off the insulation. So that's why it blew. So I don't know how primary voltage didn't go in. So when I threw that sucker in, that switch blew up and exploded, and a piece of the fuse went in here and went inside my jaw, like my gum, and they had to cut it out, and I have like a little numb spot here. But it's just one of those things.
It definitely has been anything less than exciting, huh?
Yes. So
you're looking back on the last 38 years. Would you do it again?
I would, but knowing what I know now, I would say, hey, how come we don't use this freaking fall arrest system? That's a lot easier. Why don't we? I'm sure there's got to be some crimpers that are battery operated, cutters that are battery operated. Hey,
Right.
why don't you use the extendo instead of trying that off the pole? Use the longest stick possible. Hey, let's not ride in that
That's,
bucket because
it's called progression, and,
it's,
and we're always evolving to something better.
luckily I have been instrumental in implementing safety rules through trial and error.
That you
So-
have, Ray.
So I've made my contribution to safety as a
You've definitely
as a
gotten us some
survivor.
winners.
none of it was, I've been fortunate, but
Well, you've been a pleasure to work with. I can say that.
thank you. We had a lot of fun
it's always
too.
fun.
Yeah,
We got to have fun.
you gotta have fun.
All right, Ray. Well, thank you for sharing all
Hey,
this.
thank
with
you
us.
guys. Thank
And,
you.
We'll see you when you get back.
Alrighty.